All right, so I'm going to talk about something here that really bothers me. Not so much in that there aren't reasons to support what we're about to talk about, but just the general approach by a specific website. And what we are talking about is the article from businessinsider.com that says 7 reasons you should buy a PlayStation 4 instead of a Nintendo Switch. Now, let me be clear. There are many legit reasons that someone would want a PlayStation 4 over a Nintendo Switch. My primary issue with this, before we even dive into the reasons themselves, is that not only is the title extremely clickbait. Well, I don't really want to say clickbait in the normal sense because it tries to support the title. But a title like this, an article like this, just should not exist, in my opinion, on a website like businessinsider.com. I could see this existing on, say, something like a PlayStation website, right? I could see this on a PlayStation YouTube channel even, where they might talk about why the PlayStation 4 is better than the Nintendo Switch or instead of the Nintendo Switch. And my primary issue with this article's existence is the idea that it really pushes forward console wars. And I hate the console war. It's something we constantly have to deal with on almost a daily basis in our comment section, and it's something I hate in this case. Let me be clear. As I said, if you want to buy a PlayStation 4, there's a lot of reasons you should get one. There's a lot of reasons you should own a PlayStation 4 and a Switch. There's a lot of reasons you should own a PlayStation 4, Xbox, PC, and a Switch. A lot of reasons you should game on your phone. There's reasons to game on any platform out there. Heck, the Atari VCS coming out, for all of the criticisms against it, there's probably still reasons you should probably game on it, or you might want to game on it. But here's the thing. This article, and it's written by Dave Smith and was released on July 15th, just shouldn't be here on a website that tries to remain on equal footing. What I mean to say is, all this article had to be is 7 reasons why you should buy a PlayStation 4 in 2018. That's all it really needed to be. It didn't need to call out the Switch, because in calling out the Switch, it incites flame wars, and I'm sure a lot of you guys throughout this video are going to go down to the comments and start attacking Business Insider because of it, and I can't blame you, because they shouldn't be making this a battle. It's a war that, like, Sony and Nintendo aren't even trying to engage in, so why push the narrative? But whatever it is, we're going to go through this point by point and talk about where they might be wrong, where they might be right, and why this entire comparison is downright silly. So the first point he brings up is that the PlayStation 4 is a larger library of games. It says there are about 1,800 PlayStation 4 games you can buy, compared to around 1,200 Nintendo Switch games. And where he's linking to is out to Wikipedia, that has the 1,800 and the 1,200 listed. Here is the problem with these numbers. One thing, it's inaccurate. Before I get into what the actual numbers are that actually support his argument better than what he made here, the Switch has been out 1.5 years. The PlayStation's been out 5. So if there's only 1,800 games on PlayStation 4, but if in 1.5 years there's 1,200 games on Switch, that's actually a favorable argument that Switch is going to surpass PlayStation 4 before the end of the year based on the current pace of games releasing. However, that's not actually the case. In fact, the argument is rather simple for this comparison. There are actually 2,800 PlayStation 4 games. So nearly 3,000 games have released on PlayStation 4, and this information comes directly from the PlayStation 4 online store, where it lists 2,800 plus games able to be purchased right now on PlayStation 4. So that's the accurate, up-to-date number. Now, what's weird about the Nintendo Switch number is it says 1,200, and it's linking to Wikipedia. The problem with Wikipedia is it is linking games that have yet to come to the platform. Ironically, it's not actually up-to-date for PlayStation 4, but it is up-to-date for Switch. So this is why Wikipedia, as awesome of a tool as Wikipedia is, it's not always 100% factual. Right now, or at least last time I looked, which was yesterday, there were 862 games currently released on Switch. technically under 900 games. Or if you want to round up, fine, 900. Now, it's also lists like, however many games are upcoming. I think there's like 89 or something games that are announced that are coming soon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So even if you want to count all those, it's a little bit under 1,000 games. But again, in terms of currently released games, you're around 900 on Switch. You're not at 1,200. There are not 1,200 games you can buy on Switch right now. So the Switch's library does not currently consist of 1,200 games. It could and should consist of that in the future and more. But yeah, so the argument he put up, the numbers he's using are already just factually incorrect. But yeah, that's what's really weird. He made an argument that is actually more factually correct the other way around. But it's also a really weird argument because if we look at it by the numbers, and this is not me trying to show bias. I think it's amazing how many games are on PlayStation 4. If Switch has 900 in a year and a half, that means every 3 years there's about 1,800 games. That means that they're basically on the exact same pace for game releases as PlayStation 4. But it's a fair argument because PlayStation 4 does have a larger library of games right now. As I said, there is a legit argument to buy a PlayStation 4 in 2018 over a Switch. And I feel like he makes a good point that is rounded in incorrect facts. But yeah, sure. PlayStation 4 does have a larger library of games. Like, duh. It's been out for 5 years. If it didn't have a larger library of games, that would be a problem. Sure. The next is that he says you can buy a PlayStation 4, the PS4 Pro, that supports visuals for your 4K HDR TV. The Nintendo Switch only supports visuals up to 1080p, and then he goes on to say it's a small thing, but if you own a 4K HDR TV and want to get the most out of it, the PlayStation 4 has the games that support this stunning visual format, including Horizon Zero Dawn and God of War. Thing is, I don't think... even some of the PlayStation 4 exclusives don't actually run at 4K, so you're not even getting true 4K, and some of the games are using fake HDR effects. We're not really at a point where even the Xbox One X does true 4K and true HDR. We're not really there yet. I think it's obviously a good argument that games are going to look best on your TV using a PlayStation 4 Pro or an Xbox One X or obviously a gaming PC. That's a fair argument to make. Now, gaming PC-wise, you can get true 4K and stuff like that. But, yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I mean, if you have 4K TVs in your house, obviously you want a platform that supports 4K TVs. PlayStation 4 Pro does that. So, sure, I guess. Although you can't play 4K Blu-rays, which is... I don't understand that, but... that's just my slight criticism of the PlayStation 4 Pro. I don't know why it doesn't include a 4K Blu-ray player, especially when they offer a streaming TV service and they have 4K Netflix. Like, they clearly care about media capabilities, but they got rid of one of them. Anyways. Next, he says, both consoles have incredible exclusive games, but the PlayStation 4 has more of them. So, at the time of this posting of the article, it is true the PlayStation 4 has more exclusive games, because the PlayStation 4 has been on the market for 5 years. However, Sony just admitted recently on Twitter that it will never have the same breadth of library of exclusive titles as Nintendo does. And they don't care about having that wide breadth of exclusive titles that Nintendo does. They care about having a smaller amount that are of high quality, which is a very, very good statement, by the way, for PlayStation gamers. And then having it filled in with other people making games, because Sony clarified that they are not like a game maker. They're a game publisher. They're a technology company. They're not like Nintendo with inbuilt studios. So yeah, it's a strange argument. It's true, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not saying that exclusives don't matter, but the Switch has its fair share of incredible exclusives as well over the first year and a half. So, okay. Next up, he says games are generally more affordable on the PlayStation 4, and you'll find sales through Sony and other vendors more often. Now, you actually can find sales for Nintendo games through other vendors extremely often. Several times just in the past 6 months, you could buy Mario Odyssey for $36 on Amazon. It has dropped in price several times. The thing is, when it drops in price on PlayStation 4, it often stays at that price. So if a game hits $20 on PlayStation 4, it's probably going to stay at $20. Whereas when you see a sale from another vendor for, say, Super Mario Odyssey drop to $36, it's going to go bump back up to 60. It's a major criticism to be lobbied towards Nintendo in terms of how they handle pricing and how Nintendo isn't officially cutting the pricing. It's just vendors. And it's a fair criticism. That's fine. The counterpoint is always Nintendo games just keep selling, so they don't need to cut the price, whereas third-party games and maybe PlayStation games, they have a really hot first month, and then 3 months later they need to drop the price for people to keep buying the game. But I don't know, is that a criticism we really have out there? Maybe Nintendo could sell even more copies if they did this. Who knows? It's just two different approaches to the games market. I don't think one's necessarily better than the other. Obviously, if you're a PlayStation 4 gamer, he is true. I mean, in general, you will save money on buying games, but then you also can't play the Nintendo games that you probably bought the Switch to play in the first place. So no matter how many times you buy a PlayStation 4, you still aren't going to get the games that you might have wanted to get it from Switch, and vice versa. This is why I think it's totally okay to own multiple consoles and not just tie yourself down to one system. Moving on. His fifth point is the PlayStation 4 has every major streaming service, including Netflix, Hulu, HBO, Spotify, Twitch, Amazon Video, and more. It even has PlayStation Vue, its own over-the-top subscription TV service. In contrast, Nintendo Switch only has Hulu among its supported streaming offerings right now. That's a very fair point. It is another advantage. Again, as I said, there are legit advantages PlayStation 4 has over Switch. This is one of them. Don't know why Switch hasn't enabled or allowed this stuff to come yet. Hopefully it comes in the future. Well, we're at a wait-and-see approach. His next point is the PlayStation 4 has a built-in way to listen to music while you play games. The Switch doesn't. Again, another fair point. Xbox, I think, has that as well. Xbox also has all of those other services that PlayStation 4 has outside of the PlayStation Vue, because that's obviously an inbuilt thing. And his last point is that you can play DVDs and Blu-ray discs. The Nintendo Switch cannot. And the counter to that is you also have to install every single game on PlayStation 4, where on Switch you can just, because you're using cartridges, you can just plop it in and play. Now, I know that's not true of all games. Doom you can actually pop it in and play. You just can't play multiplayer. Wolfenstein, you have to get a download, etc. So I know it's not true of all physical games, but a lot of physical games on Switch you can just pop in and play, which reminds people a lot of what gaming used to be like before game installs became a thing this generation. So there's a give and a take there. Yes, it's cool you can play DVDs and Blu-ray on PlayStation 4, even if you can't do 4K on their 4K system. But you also, in turn, get faster load times and don't have to install things over on Switch's side of the spectrum. So, again, it's kind of a give or take. There's an advantage and a disadvantage and an advantage and a disadvantage for consumers. At the end of the day, as I said, I don't care if you want to buy a PlayStation 4. Go for it. I want to own a PlayStation 4. I legitimately want to get a PlayStation 4 this year and probably will pick one up eventually. I want to get a Pro. That's why I'm kind of waiting for a price drop. Don't know if that's coming anytime soon. Might wait for the PlayStation 5. We'll see. But my thing is that it's not that there's not legit arguments to get. Like, if you're comparing Switch and PlayStation 4, there's plenty of arguments that support getting a Switch over a PlayStation 4. There's plenty of arguments that support getting a PlayStation 4 over a Switch. It's just this article shouldn't exist. It just shouldn't exist. It not in this, like, I hate things that happen in the mass media that push the fan war agenda. This pushes the fan war agenda harder than I think I've seen any major website push it in a long time. You don't even see IGN go to this extent. But here we have BusinessInsider.com, a well-respected website that we've even gotten news from in the past, go out of its way, this author at Business Insider, go out of its way to essentially create console wars that don't need to be created. There, you could just say, here's all the reasons you should buy a PlayStation 4. And if they want to be fair, they should do the Kotaku thing. Here's why you should get a PlayStation 4 in 2018. Here's why you should get an Xbox in 2018. Here's why you should get a Switch in 2018. They do that kind of article every single year, and that's really the best way to do it. Instead of cross-comparing and having to tear down one system to prop up another, why don't you just talk about how amazing the one system is and let it stand on its own merits? But again, that's just my take. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. I'm personally a little disappointed by BusinessInsider.com. Maybe you guys are just as disappointed as I am, or maybe you just don't care. I just hate seeing this agenda push, not just because it's shining a negative light on Switch. That's obviously one reason it drew my attention, but just because it's creating fan wars in general. If this was between PlayStation 4 and Xbox, or PlayStation 4 and PC, or PC and Switch, or whatever, it would all be bad.
This should just not exist. I would never do something like this as a Nintendo YouTuber. And I think it's even more justifiable as a Nintendo YouTuber for me to tell you why you should buy a Switch over anything else. But I still wouldn't do that because it's such a console fan war thing. I would just tell you this is why I would buy a Switch in 2018. Anyways, folks, thanks for tuning in. Like the video if you like it, and I'll catch you in the next one.